You guys, welcome back. Atisha here, back for another recap of Big Love Season 2. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button, because boy, oh boy, do I have to talk to the family today, okay? Y'all, this episode was wild. And I know there's some things that I'm going to leave out that you may want to talk about. Feel free to put it down below. Because what I've realized is that Bill will forever and always fumble the bag and mess up things for everyone. And because he does not listen, and because he thinks he's always right, and because he doesn't look into things the way they should or allow time to research things, and because he was trying so hard to stick it to Roman, this dodo bird has now put not one, but two targets on his back, right? Because now there's going to be two polygamous groups that are on his tail, literally. Because to me, the Greens seem even worse than Roman. You all tell me what you think. Let's get into it. So we begin this episode with Bill. It's date night, and he's out in the park and he's watching a dance performance by himself with a whole bunch of other people around him as he waits on his date. Which wife is he waiting on, you ask? I'll tell you. None of them. Because Bill has himself a little sneaky link. He's sneaking behind his wife's back to meet the waitress Anna at this performance. So she arrives and they watch the performance. After it's over, they walk together. She breaks a heel, no big deal. He goes and he buys her a snow cone. And as she's biting into the snow cone, some of the snow cone drops on her chest and she jumps, while it doesn't even look like an ice cube dropped on her chest. It looks like a little bit of syrup got there, but whatever. So she jumps and he takes out the napkin and wipes her chest off, takes the residue off with the napkin as he looks into her eyes and makes note of how sometimes they're blue and sometimes they're green. And then the next thing you know, they're kissing. All of this outside in public. At the end of the date, they are kissing. So even though in previous episodes his face is on the billboards, and even though he's legally married to Barb, he is out here exchanging DNA with another lady. I personally don't understand how this isn't considered cheating. Because to me, you're cheating, especially because at this point, none of your wives know anything about this woman with the exception of Margine. And you don't even know that Margine knows. So Bill is dating Anna, and Anna is getting to know Margine. They're getting to know each other. Bill is getting close to her. Margine is getting close to her. She's meeting her at restaurants and hanging out in her apartment, and they are becoming friends. Well, while in Anna's apartment, Anna speaks about how good it is to have Margie around because it reminds her of her friends from back home. She misses having girlfriends. I think, if we're honest, I think Margine misses having girlfriends as well, because while watching this and seeing how Nikki responds to things and Nikki feeling like the only people that they should be close to is one another, I can see how there is a void there for her. And why she gets so excited about meeting other people. Because she and the other wives, I do believe, love one another, but they aren't friends. So Anna is surprised because she... I'm skipping something because I went straight into this. As they're sitting there talking, Margine starts to tell her about things, right? Margine lets her know that she is a polygamist. Now, before she tells her she's a polygamist, Margine is talking to Anna about Bill, but she doesn't know their connection. She just thinks that this is a friend giving advice. So she doesn't know this is Bill's wife. And as Margie is standing there, she ends up telling her that she is a polygamist. And Anna, as I was saying earlier, is surprised because she feels like she doesn't look like the women that she normally sees on TV. But she does embrace her and she gives her a hug for sharing her story. So she's like, what is it like? And she describes her wives and she describes her husband. And she says that her husband is thoughtful and strong and this and that. And I said thoughtful or thoughtless because I don't think that Bill thinks about anyone but himself. You can tell that while telling her this information, that Margie feels relieved because for the past several years, I'm assuming, she hasn't been able to tell friends that she's a polygamist. I don't know what her family situation is, but she hasn't been able to be honest with everybody around her. And this is an opportunity for her to do that. And rather than telling her she doesn't want to have anything to do with her, she's embraced. I think Margie had been waiting to make this confession to a friend for a long time because you can see her relief and her happiness. Okay, that's what my note says. So Bill wants Anna, right? And they continue seeing each other and he comes to her house and she feeds him dinner and all those other things. And it becomes clear very quickly that it's about the physical. She is ready to have relations, but he is not. While having dinner at her home, the subject of religion comes up and we find out that she is not religious, making religion essentially one of the bigger issues in their dynamic. So Bill is struggling to say who he is and what he believes. He prays and she is trying to figure out what's going on with him and what's going on with them, but he can't even tell her who he is. In my opinion, he led the lady on the entire episode because he wasn't honest and he wasn't transparent. And if you're hiding something major, like you have 3 wives, I don't think that that's a solid foundation. But apparently he hid this from Margine as well. Even when she says to him, when Anna's like, okay, are you a Mormon? He says no. He doesn't clarify what he is. He just says he practices his own thing. So at some point in the episode, we see him go and meet with a group of polygamous men. And you hear one man describing his realization that taking on a 4th wife is like the Holy Spirit sucker punching you. And another is talking about how hard it is for the newest wife when you have another wife and all these other things. And I'm listening to them. And I just feel like when it comes to these dynamics, there's a lot of things that the men don't worry about. Because despite what all of these guys are saying, it seems like they seek out whoever they want to seek out without their wives having prior knowledge. Now, I don't know if that's what Don did, because Don said that his wives thoroughly investigated and all those other things. But it's clear to me that Cody's and Bill's of the world, this is how they operate. They see something they want, and then they try to make you feel like you have a part of it. So throughout the episode, he's waiting for a sign from the Holy Spirit that this is the woman that he should take on as a 4th wife, but it never comes. Even when Margine is trying to tell him that, she knows about what's going on and she saw him and, she thinks she received a sign from the Holy Spirit, but she's not sure about it because she doesn't know what it's supposed to feel like. I'm not going to expand on it too much because I just feel like Margine is trying to find her place and she does want a 4th. And I noticed how nasty Bill was kind of to her when he was fussing at her for seeing this lady and talking to this lady and becoming friends with this lady. But I also noticed that as she's doing this and as she's talking about her and how much she likes her, that he seems to be more attracted to her. He seems to be looking at her differently because he had a problem with it. And he was telling her it wasn't her place and that she couldn't date Anna and that it's his decision. But he's admiring her and looking on at her after the fact, kind of the way he looked at Barb when they were sneaking off and doing their things. These women, in my opinion, allow these men to trick them into feeling like they're helping with the connection. And because they're helping with that connection, or they're helping the men act out on their supposed testimonies, they gain favor. That's what happened to Mary. Mary helped Cody and Robin, in her mind, get together because they were attracted to one another. And Mary felt like it would bring her favor because this is what they're told to do in their doctrine. The women are supposed to help the men get these women. It's the same thing with Irene. Irene was told by her husband who he wanted to be with, and she was supposed to place the hand in the other hand because that's what she was told to do. This is what happens. So toward the end of the episode, Bill finally ends up breaking with Anna at her job, which is so tacky. He doesn't really tell her why. He just says that it's not going to work. And she looks sad. And she doesn't even get closure because she asks if they can go and talk outside. And once he goes outside, he sees that he has a flat tire on his car. And then he is momentarily abducted. As soon as I saw that van come behind him, I knew something was up, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about this whole gaming situation. So Don is presently worried because they have given money to Reese from Weber Gaming. He sat down with one of the managers by the name of Larry to be filled in on all the different things. So he's learning how many more employees they'll have to take on and what the benefits and all those other things look like. And it's clear that they're in over their heads. And it's clear that Don does all the work, because why is it that Bill wanted this so much, but he always makes Don do the investigation, and Don go seek out this person, and Don go seek out that person. It's like he treats Don like he's his little, errand boy. So we know that things work through. Work for them because he gives him a Abraham gift and talks about how Abraham couldn't do it all by himself. Real pointless to me. Don's like, look, I'm concerned. So we know that things went through, as I was just saying, because Bill got his boat. He didn't get to enjoy it long, though, because it was set on fire at nighttime by someone in the middle of the night, as he was in one of the homes, and he looks out and sees the fire burning. So it's the next day. He calls Don over as usual because Don has to help with everything. Tells Don, don't let the wives know that, the fire department is suspecting that it's arson. Bill is foolish because these wives aren't stupid. It doesn't take a genius to see something's up here. But Don is the only one who seems to understand that the wives are really intelligent. And he's like, yeah. So they're not going to, think something's up. It's not like these things just, combust. Don thinks that it may be Roman, but he's not sure. And Bill's like, no, I don't really feel like it's him. He's a businessman and arson isn't his style. And it isn't his style, not in this case. So later, Don reaches out to Reese, the contact at Weber Games, the one who sold them this company, and now he is missing in action. We find out that Reese, because Don went to go talk to Larry again, the manager, and Larry's like, look, Reese was threatened a few days ago. So when we saw him on the phone and he was trying to do all this stuff and do this and do this and do this, it was probably because of this situation. Y'all tell me what you think. So he was threatened a few days ago by some nut job that came to the job, threatened him, and then proceeded to brand him on his butt like a cow, which, because of that situation, he's now gone into hiding. He's hiding because he was attacked by the same people who later abduct Bill. So Bill, as I said, broke things off with Anna at the restaurant. He walks out, sees a flat tire on his vehicle. He's looking at the tire when this white van, completely looks like a kidnapper van if you were going to see one, pulls up. A person by the name of Selma Green is sitting in the recliner, and they say Hollis needs a word. Now, I'm saying they because I'm not sure how they identify, because they look like they would be a male, but there's certain appendages that make me feel like they're not a male. But I don't know what their choice is, so I'm going to say they, all right? I don't know if they're non-binary. So they say, Hollis wants to see you. Bill is confused. He's like, okay, is Hollis here? And they're like, no, Hollis isn't here. And he's like, okay, I don't understand what Hollis wants with me. And they say, come with us, you're going to find out. So they pat him down. and he is told that he's being checked for wires. I said, okay, this is serious. And they kind of like push him into the vehicle, basically. They drive a distance, don't know how long away it is, but it should, I don't know. I think it's a good distance because by the time they drop him off, you can tell that the sun is starting to go down. So he's taken to what looks like a warehouse or a factory. There's kids playing around inside and dogs eating off the thing. And I notice all these trailers and stuff outside. And he walks in and there's this man sitting in the recliner by the name of Hollis Green. Based on the conversation, he's a man that's in hiding because Bill says, when did you get back? And he says, I'm not back, meaning you didn't see me. We didn't have this conversation. As far as you're concerned, I'm not in the area. So he proceeds to tell Bill that he's upset with him because Bill has taken ownership of what is supposed to be theirs, that they wanted to add this thing to their portfolio. And they offered what they thought was a fair price to Reese. And instead of Reese going with them, he went with Bill. So I think that Bill bid higher. And because Bill bid higher, because Bill really, really wanted this, he got the company. So he says, the company and the boat are mine. And he tells Bill, like, you will disgorge the company. And Bill's looking at him like, Bill has gotten himself into more than a pickle. The next thing we know, we hear pull down his pants and Selma grabs a blowtorch and they're lighting the end of something so that they can brand him the same way they branded the other man. Now, Bill is scared. He's holding this like, wait. Hold on. He doesn't say it like that, but he's like, hold on, wait, don't do it. Don't. A creative license here. He didn't do all that. But he doesn't want to get branded. He's scared. So he's like, I purchased, Weber Gaming legally for Roman Grant. I'm on the UEB. And they all looking at him like, you purchased it for Roman and you're on the UEB? Hollis says, there's no way you're on the UEB. Henriksen hasn't been up there for over 20 years. And he's like, I am. He said, all right, well, we will put our hand steady. The Ark of God's covenant. We will vanquish falsely appointed heads of the priesthood. I said, oh boy, here we go with another man thinking that he is a prophet. And here he is trying to call down some type of mess on him. Roman ain't got nothing on this guy from what I can see. Now, I don't know if he has the capital, but he seems a little bit more scary anytime you're lighting boats on fire and stuff like that in front of people's houses. So he's let go. Because Bill said that he's going to see if he can convince Roman to give Weber Gaming up. But Roman doesn't even know yet that Bill purchased this. So that's going to be an interesting thing. So he's dropped back off some distance from the restaurant. As he's walking back to the restaurant, he calls Don, leaves a message saying that we got a problem. No, Bill. You all don't have a problem. You have a problem because once again, you did what you wanted to do and have now caused issues, not just for yourself, but probably for Dawn and others as well. And for your family, because if they're bold enough to go somewhere in the middle of the night and light that thing on fire right in front of your house, like what if you didn't see it? It could have easily spread. So he, as he gets back to the restaurant, sees, Margene talking to Anna. He calls her on the phone as she's talking to Anna, tells her to come outside. When they go outside, Margene's all heartbroken that he, broke things off. And she's like, you can work and da-da-da-da. And he's like, no, it couldn't work because we had lust. And Margene says, we had the same thing. And he was like, no, after seeing this, I feel like we have love. I know we have celestial love. I feel like Margene is right, and it started off as lust, and it makes me feel like he was sneaking around the same way that he did with Anna with Margene. So they ride home in the car together. If Bill had done a little bit more research and listened to Don before purchasing Weber Gaming, he would not be in this position at all. I think that he thought that he was poaching it from Roman, but it turns out that he didn't take it from Roman. He actually stole it from these other people. And the Greens, to me, seem worse than Roman's people. As I said earlier, y'all tell me what you think, because I don't understand what's going on. Like, do they live in the warehouse, or do they live in those trailers that were parked by the warehouse? Did anyone think like maybe Roman isn't so bad after all, with these people ready to brand people? Like, y'all just randomly brand this guy who decided to accept another offer? That's crazy to me. Makes me wonder what other type of threats that they made. So let's get to what I feel like was a trip. Rhonda is the gift that keeps on giving. I have gone from finding myself feeling sorry for her being a child that was promised to Roman, to finding myself being infuriated with the things that she later says about Sarah and her family. She is dangerous in so many ways to the Henriksen family, and she proved it to me during this episode. So, fill you back in. Rhonda sneaks off a Juniper Creek compound and into the Henriksen lives. She is put in a safe home. She ends up leaving there, runs away for a week, finds Sarah. Sarah ends up having her go to Heather's, right? A place where she claims that she can feel safe. Only problem is, because the way Rhonda's been raised, or maybe because of how Rhonda just is, she has found this ability to create false narratives and get what she wants, to the point where people feel sorry for her, and she charms her way out of things. So now, after being at Heather's house for a week, she is calling her parents Uncle Laura and Uncle Chuck, right? These are Heather's parents, Laura and Chuck. I may forget their names. You may just hear me say Heather's parents, but that's all right. So Aunt Laura and Uncle Chuck plan on getting custody of her. Just like some of the people around her, Rhonda is an opportunist and she's a liar. She's smart. And she knows exactly what she had to say in order to be protected from the compound. And ooh, to the wee, does she say some things. So Heather and Sarah walk in to Heather's house, and they see that same advocate that we saw before, Sarah's parents, and a reporter. Rhonda is telling them all sorts of stories about the compound. Sarah overhears it and is worried that she's going to implicate her family, which is fair because you're talking to reporters and they already know who my parents are and ain't no telling what you're telling them. So as she's in the room and she's waiting for Rhonda to finish up, Heather feels bad because she's now seeing that Sarah was right and that Rhonda can't be trusted. Rhonda ends up coming in, tells her, you don't have anything to worry about, Sarah. I'm not saying anything about your family. The story is about me. But she obviously said something because later a reporter calls Nikki. He's like, hey, I'm with the Sun Times and we're doing a story on Rhonda Vollmer about, her escape from Juniper Creek. I have a source that says you're the daughter of Roman Grant. Is that true? Are you the daughter of Roman Grant? And Nikki's like, I'm not telling you that. He says, I heard you help get Rhonda for your father and that you're part of a network that helps, shuttle girls to other compounds, creating a pipeline for these elder men. I said, okay, this is getting crazy. Crazy. Nikki, of course, gets pissed off and she's flustered and she's trying to clear her name to make it be known she did no such thing, while Barb is trying to get her to ask the reporter where she is. Nikki ends up saying to him, that girl will finagle her way into anything. She finagled her way into my father's good graces, and her parents are just roadside trash. She hangs up the phone. I was like, okay. So Nikki has gone off on the reporter. Barb is like, I'm worried about her, whatever. And she's like, Barb, when are you going to get it? Rhonda can handle things for herself. And she can. Skip that right quick. Let's jump to Ben. Ben gets his license ends up driving a long way to speak to his old bishop about feeling bad because of how much sex he's having. He said there's times where he doesn't even want to have sex and his girl wants to have sex. At one point, they're sitting on top of each other's laps naked, and I don't know if he's inside of her or not. It looks like he is, and they're just sitting there. So I guess because nobody's gyrating or moving up and down, he feels like that's better than doing the other thing, but I don't know. Now, rather than helping this young man who's telling you that he's having a whole bunch of sex and he doesn't know what to do, the bishop suggests that he gets Bryn to become a part of the church, and he gives him a bunch of pamphlets and says that they need to make a plan of action for you. This young man waited until he got his license, drove all this way, said he only feels comfortable talking to you. Of course, he doesn't know, the bishop probably doesn't know that they're polygamous, but he only feels comfortable talking to you, and you don't even help him. You hand him a bunch of paper. Their answer to avoiding premarital sex is marriage. They do not prepare these kids, and I hate it. I told my son at a very, very early age all about what that entails and the emotions that are associated with him. And I told him very early on, there may be a point where you're ready to do certain things or you want to have certain discussions. And if you do not feel comfortable talking to me about it, these are the men within the family that it is safe for you to have these conversations with, that they won't steer you wrong. You could talk to your pop-pop, you could talk to your uncle, like you could talk to cousin so-and-so. I gave him people that he can have conversations with. And I know that he since has certain conversations, and I'm glad that he's able to do that for reasons like this, because the answer to this is to not give you a piece of paper. The answer to this is to educate them. Even if it's something that you don't want him to do, Bishop, you just think, you talking about some, well, you're not ready for marriage yet, but let me give you these papers and tell her to come to church and we'll come up with a plan. No, he needs a plan now because he's telling you that they have sex often. How often is often, Ben? End of that. Back to this whole situation with Rhonda. So the article a couple days later comes out in the paper and Nikki is fuming. She wants to talk to Sarah about Rhonda being at Heather's because she sees that that's where she's staying. And Barbara's like, no, I'll talk to Sarah. So she talks to Sarah. Sarah ends up admitting to her mother that she did help Rhonda. Barb really acts like she knows everything sometimes, and I kind of didn't like the situation originally when she talked to Sarah, but she redeems herself later on. So she's asking her daughter that, since when do we put ourselves ahead of those in need? And I instantly found myself having an attitude because all the adults in this family put their needs above one another and even sometimes their kids. Sarah says, I helped her and I did what I thought would make our lives the most normal, meaning I didn't put myself above her need. I helped her in the capacity that I could, despite knowing that she's in, she's I can't even talk. She's trouble, right? So, despite being told by Barb to leave this situation with Rhonda alone, Nikki goes to confront the advocate. She says their compound isn't like the incestuous place that the advocate comes from. And she starts telling the advocate how she called her sister wife and her sister wife said she's this, and this. Nikki has a lot of characteristics of her father that I don't even think she sees. She berates this lady, standing outside telling the lady about herself. And the lady's like, look, it took me years to untangle myself from polygamy. And I will never allow you to get your hands on Rhonda again. And she walks off and I said, good for her. Good for that lady for standing her ground, because Nikki seems to be unable to deal with anyone who views polygamy as a negative choice. As a matter of fact, she seems to struggle with her socialization skills with people other than polygamists, period. She struggled at the church school for her son. Here she is struggling now. And then she's rude later on with Anna because I don't know if she's doing a mission to see the ladies or she wanted Anna to see the ladies, but Margine takes them to a restaurant and she's referring to her as a friend, and Nikki has a problem with her referring to her as a friend, and Margene doesn't like the way she's treating her, and she's speaking to her, and she's telling her that you got the order wrong and all these other things. And she says things like she's just some waitress. I don't like that. I don't like that. Just because she doesn't have the job that you think she should have doesn't mean you deserve to talk to her like that. And she was more than a waitress before she came to this country. She actually, I think she was, a dental hygienist, I believe. Either way, she was something else. And even if she wasn't something else, she's a person that deserves to be treated fairly. So when that doesn't work, her confronting the advocate, she goes to confront Rhonda. She's pulling an Albie, if you ask me, because she's watching Rhonda in her car as Rhonda does yard work with Heather's mom. The moment Heather's mom goes inside, Nikki runs up to Rhonda and tries to convince her to leave with her. And she even lies and says, like, you know, we can get your story out. Bill has a television network. And Rhonda isn't buying it because she's like, why didn't I ever hear that? Because she heard a lot of things that went on in that office. So the next thing we know, Rhonda is screaming for Heather's mother, saying she's trying to take me. Like, she literally screams. And Heather's mom comes running out to pull her back in the house. This turns into a bigger mess because Sarah ends up getting confronted by Heather's father when she later comes over to hang out with Heather. He won't even allow her to walk through the door. This entire time, Sarah has been a nice young lady. This entire time, Sarah has been polite. She's came over your house before. Your daughter has gone to hers. You met her mom and her dad, and you were okay then. But now here you are, because you've been told whatever you've been told, you won't even allow the young lady to step foot in your house. He tells her, you know, one of your moms tried to abduct Rhonda, which shocks Sarah, because prior to this, they did not know that her parents are polygamous. He talks about the state being too tolerant of polygamy, but he is an officer of the law, and, you know, his tolerance to polygamy changes because he can't stand for children being abused. He says, Rhonda said she was uncomfortable being alone with your father, and you can see the horror in Sarah's eyes and the hurt and the pain. She's a phenomenal actress. I said, oh no, she didn't. No, this little girl didn't. That is such a horrible thing to accuse someone of. And once that type of accusation is out there, there is no taking it back. So she's like, what? What? He says, she told me what happens in your homes. Have you done or been made to do anything that you felt was inappropriate? And Sarah's like, it's not true. She's trying to tell him it's not true. She's trying to tell him don't believe her. But rather than taking the time to listen to Sarah, who you've met for a while now, who your daughter has been interacting with for a while now, who's been in your home plenty of times, you're going to take the word of this young lady who's been in your house for a week. He's talking about, you know, things get twisted and, you know, maybe you've been shamed into silence. And I felt so sorry for her because these kids do not choose their lifestyle. The parents do. And because of choices that we make as parents, our children are often affected. That doesn't matter if you're monogamous or polygamous. Either way, decisions that you make, they trickle down to your kids. And I hate this for kids who are stuck in situations like these, where because of their parents' preferences, because of the things that their parents decide to do, they're treated unfairly. I feel like it's none of anybody's business. I don't care what you have going on in your home. I don't. It's not for me to care. As long as you're loving your kids and you're showing up for your kids, you're all right with me. So Sarah goes home and she's still in shock, and she is like red in the face, eyes full of tears. And Barb, as soon as she walks in, can tell something's wrong. She's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she embraces her mother. She's hugging her and she just cries. She cries. And I'm going to assume she told her what happened, because next thing you know, Barb pulls a me. You do not hurt my kid and think that I'm not going to come and confront you. Now, Barb is a little more bold than me because they got stand your ground laws and stuff like that. That's a real thing. So I'm not just going to come knocking on your door. But Barb is gangster. Barb is like, I'm going to come knock on your door. So Barb is like, Heather's dad opens the door. He doesn't offer her to come in. He just stands there. And he says, no, she says, Officer Tuttle, whatever your feelings are about my family, that doesn't really matter, but you will keep the children out of it. Heather is standing there and she's like, Mrs. Hendrickson, I'm so sorry. And her father tells her to go back upstairs. He's standing there with his arms folded, talking about how it's his duty to investigate allegations of abuse. Not call and speak to Barb and ask her anything after meeting them. Not speak to Sarah in a different manner. You just go into this whole other tone. Nothing about it was handled right anyways. Let me be clear, because you wouldn't go straight to the parents and say anything anyway. There would be a whole investigation and all that other stuff. My point is he didn't handle it right. So Barb says, there is no abuse in our homes to investigate. I've been a counselor in the public school. I know warning signs, sir. I've worked with CPS and law enforcement. And let me tell you something. You do not take wild, unsupported allegations of damage, of wild, unsupported allegations of a damaged, pathological liar to question someone. In other words, you don't sit here and believe this little liar that you got up in your home and use whatever the little liar said that lies for every little thing and then come and question my child and make it seem like my child's a liar. I said, go off, Barb. It's about time. It's about time that you see this for what it is. So she says, shame on you. If you wish to question my daughter, you better damn well have a basis. I said, go off, Barb. Say it with your chest. Say it with your chest, Barb. Tell him, Barb. Tell him, Barb. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't check my kid, because really, who are you to question my kid? She says, you damn well better have a basis, or I will bring you up for unprofessional conduct so fast your head will spin. I say, yes, Barb. Yes. He is bothered, because he has absolutely no comeback for everything that she just said. Rhonda then comes out because she wants to talk to Barb. And she's like, you don't have to go with her. Don't let her scare you. Da 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 da. That's what Heather's mother's saying. And she comes out to show Barb who she really is. Barb tells her, like, I don't understand why you would say those things about, my family, and you can't keep lying to get what you want. Rhonda hugs Barb, tells her, they're forcing me to say those things, Barb. They're making me say those things, Barb. I do say those things about you, Barb. I love you. I love you. And then she pulls away. And then she leans in like this so just Barb can hear her. And she says, kiss off. I said, oh, Barb. Barb, this is the girl that you didn't listen to Nikki to. This is the girl that your daughter tried to tell you about. This is the girl that has caused all types of havoc, and you're just now seeing it. So the father comes and says, I need you to tell your daughter to stay away from Heather, because I don't want your daughter's judgment to mess up my daughter's, moral judgment. I don't want her moral judgment to be compromised. And that's how I'm going to end it. Y'all tell me what you thought of this episode. Sorry it was all over the place. This is what happens when you wait to the last minute, because I normally try to pre-record early, and this is literally the day before it's supposed to be released. So I apologize for my tardiness. Hopefully you enjoy the review nonetheless. You guys tell me what you think of Heather's dad and the way that he handled the situation with Barb, number one. And number two, who's worse, Roman or Hollis? Put it down below. Until next time.